Arcanum by Cor Alaran. Chapter 6, Part 2. Your days start officially at 9. Each lesson is 1 to 2 hours long, and there is a single hour break after for you to travel to your next, rest, or prepare any supplies you might need. An hour probably sounds like a long time at this point, and will be for a while, but once you start choosing what path you want to follow, you'll be stuck with a lot more prep work between lessons. Not to mention the work gets harder, so you'll need that break to recover your energy. Take advantage of it as free time for now, new bloods. You'll be longing for free time once you get a couple of years in like me and Yatsu.
Yatsuhashi and I, the large man corrected. Coco rolled her eyes.
Ruby had to admit she liked the older girl, though like might have been a bit much considering she didn't really know her. She was fun, though, and it wasn't as stuffy as she'd expected, given her meeting with Watts and the Lord Scribe the day before. Not as stuffy as Weiss, either, who had taken to sniffing at every little thing she did, from wiping grease off onto her sleeve to yawning through a brief lecture by an arcanist. In her defense, she'd been awake all night but for a few naps between guard shifts. The food had her feeling sleepy, too. They'd stop for a lunch break in the middle, another chance for her to all but collapse over varied offerings on display. Lunch for Weiss had been a bowl of soup with some bread and a slice of ham and melon. Lunch for Ruby had been 4 sausages, a heap of steamed cabbage, soup, chunky bread, and a cut of lamb soaked in gravy and some minty sauce that had sent her taste buds tingling into the back of her brain. Even now, Ruby had to hold her stomach with both hands. It was fit to burst, and her burps had not gone unnoticed by the proud noble who kept trying to get further and further away from her. Better out than in, as Yang always said. You can spend your free time how you'd like, but most people do it outside. The Collegium has a host of amenities for your enjoyment. Toward the back, there's even what we call the student village. It's not just for us, but has a few restaurants, a general store, and even a salon. If you want a massage or your hair doing, check it out. A salon? Not something she'd ever used, but the people who worked there would be normal people, not arcanists. They could leave the Collegium, probably. Could she sneak out if she stole some of their clothes for a disguise? Those are where the Collegium guards do their own exercises. Girls, their morning runs are at 7 sharp, and if it's a hot day, they go topless. You can thank me later. Yatsuhashi rolled his eyes while a few girls among the arcanists tittered at the joke. Yeah, you think I'm joking, Coco said. Check it out sometime. I know I do. There wasn't a barracks in the slums. The one for the guards who patrolled there was stationed in the merchants' quarter, and they'd come through the gates. But the west farm tower outside the walls had one, and Ruby knew there were plenty of farm girls who liked to watch the boys train. Ruby had gone along once or twice as well, though more to learn some of the forms from watching than drool over boys. Yang was in the latter category, much to Ruby's disgust. Whenever she accused her of that, Yang would just laugh, rub her head, and say she'd understand one day. Then she'd go back to leering over sweaty boys and whistling occasionally, trying to see if she could make them falter or get hit. It surprised her that arcanists would be the same. Maybe that was silly. There had to be young arcanists before there were old and powerful ones. It also explained why Coco kept calling them new bloods, which Ruby knew from talking to the guard was what they called their initiates. Coco must have spent a lot more time watching the boys train than she wanted to admit. Anyways, you can head back to the dorm to catch up on rest if you'd like. There's a much smaller reading room there. Less books than the library, but less stuffy, and you're allowed to take food and drink in. You can do what you like in your rooms, but be aware that the cleaners will report you if you make too much of a mess. You'll be forced to clean up yourself for a week if that happens. Ruby raised her hand. You don't have to do that with me, new blood. Coco laughed. What's up? Raise my hand for some, don't raise my hand for others. Why is this all so confusing? Watts told me we'd be put into dorms with other people. Shared rooms. Watts? Arcanist Watts? Ruby corrected. Can't say I know him, but there are plenty of arcanists around. He's right, though. Older years get rooms to themselves, as do wardens, but initiates have to share. The news garnered several protests and complaints. I know. I didn't like it either, but it's a rule. On the bright side, boys will be with boys and girls with girls. We don't mix and match. You'll get used to it. Miss Adele, Weiss called. Coco, or Warden. Warden, then. The noble's face was pinched. Can we not pay extra to have rooms to ourselves? I can easily provide a donation to the Collegium to cover the cost of a room, even with a little extra." "Are you talking about a bribe?" "No, a payment. It's only fair to pay for a room." Would be. But I don't make the rules. I'd say it was about fostering teamwork or some such. But I'm fairly sure it's to beat humility into us. Show you that you all know better or worse than anyone else here. We're all Collegium Arcanists or something like that. So no. Sorry. You can't pay extra to escape having to share a room with someone." Weiss frowned, but nodded her head and stepped back. The girl's eyes scanned over others in the crowd, no doubt wondering what she would find acceptable to share a room with. Her eyes passed over Ruby, and she grimaced, before quickly moving on.
"How will it be decided?"
someone else asked.
"Can we pick our partners?"
I don't see why not," Coco said, shrugging. "We can get that out of the way now, if you'd like. Right, anyone who wants a partner with a friend, family member, or something else, do so. Boys with boys and girls with girls. I don't care if you're brother and sister. I'll be told off if I let you bunk together." People began to pair up, some having already hung together, probably friends before the Collegium. Others gravitating towards people they knew or had gotten to know in the short time they'd spent together. Ruby stayed still, knowing she had no one in either category. Soon, the numbers began to dwindle. Those that remained partnered up of their own choice, picking someone, anyone they thought they might get along with. No one did so with her. A few looked her way, but it felt like there were more boys than girls. It might have been that some of the girls thought she was a boy as well, and so didn't bother asking her. It didn't take long for the number to be brought down to 6. 4 boys and 2 girls. Her and Weiss.
I object!"
Weiss cried, looking at Ruby and then away in horror. This isn't a fair way of choosing dorm assignments. It should be randomly selected." "Sorry, new blood. I think you've been outvoted on that one." Coco nodded to Yatsuhashi. "You want to sort the boys out and get 'em placed? I'll handle the girls." The giant of a man walked toward the 4 remaining boys. "Come, let us exchange introductions and see if we cannot decide how the 4 of you shall be split." "Girls to me," Coco called. "I'll need to register your names and dorm assignments in the book of names. Come on, let's get this sorted quickly, and you can all have the rest of the afternoon to yourselves to explore and settle in." "Will we get dinner?" Ruby asked.
"You cannot still be hungry!"
Weiss shrieked.
"It is not humanly possible!"
"Yes, you'll get dinner," Coco laughed. "You don't need to keep asking me that. The only reason you'll miss a meal is if you choose to." "People choose to miss meals?"
"This can't be happening. I'm a Schnee. This isn't fair."
Ruby couldn't say she was looking forward to it either. The room they'd been given was easily big enough for 2 people, yet her new roommate seemed to think otherwise. There were 2 single beds, one set on either end of the room. Besides them, a small set of wooden drawers, then a little bigger chest at the end. There was also a cabinet, one on her side and one what was quickly becoming Weiss's side of the room. A single window looked out onto the gardens outside, and beyond that the walls and the city proper. Thin white curtains wafted in the breeze from the open window, and everything that had been cleaned before their arrival. A single door led to what Ruby assumed was the washroom. Hopefully there was a copper tub and some wood in there. "This is ridiculous," Weiss hissed, stomping one foot on the carpeted floor. "This room is more fit for a servant's quarters, and now I have to share it with another? Father would have a fit if he could see this. We're one of the great families, and I'm being reduced to the status of a commoner." A commoner? A commoner would have loved a room like this. It was bigger than what she and Yang had back in the slums, not to mention warmer, cleaner, and more comfortable. Ruby lay back on her bed, then winced and rolled onto her side, clutching her stomach. "And you," Weiss hissed, rounding on her. "You may be from Menagerie, and I don't claim to know what that city was like, but your actions today have been nothing short of an embarrassment. Are you even listening to me?" "Hurts," Ruby whined. "Stomach hurts." "I'm not surprised. You've eaten enough for 5 people." "But it tasted so good." "That's no excuse for gorging yourself like a pig, and that's something we need to discuss." Weiss planted her hands on her hips and stood before Ruby's bed. "As much as I hate it, we're stuck together. We have to live with one another for at least the next couple of years. As such, I am willing to be magnanimous and lower my standards to accept you. That said, you need to make some alterations to your behavior. I won't allow anything less. For one, you need to clean yourself up. I can smell you from here. Secondly, no mess in our room. Third, you are not to cross onto my side of the room for anything. Fourth, you will not disturb me when I am studying. Fifth, no guests are to be brought into our dorm without first asking my permission. Sixth, you will— Weiss cut off. You're not even listening to me, are you? Ruby moaned pathetically. You— Weiss stormed over and grasped her shoulders. I am trying to introduce some kind of accord between us. When a Schnee deigns to speak with you as an equal, you will respond to the honor accordingly. She shook Ruby harder, rolling her up so she was sat on the edge of the bed. You will listen when I'm talking to you. I don't feel good. Listen, rule number 1. Ruby's body trembled. And things might have been different in Menagerie, but you will need to adapt to Vale now. Vale's rules and Vale's standards. Ruby's hand fisted in Weiss's robe. Bucket? What are you going on about now? Why would I have a bucket of all things? And where would I hope to find one in a dormitory? And I'm not your servant. If you want something, you can go fetch it yourself. I'm Weiss Schnee, proud second heiress of the Schnee dynasty and 27th in the line to the throne of Vale. I do not fetch buckets for people. Ruby's body gave up the fight. Her back arched, her mouth opened. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner roared their way upward, outward, and down the front of Weiss's immaculate robes as she stood before Ruby, eyes wide, mouth open, horrified and dripping with vomit. Weiss screamed. Thanks for listening. I typically have a new chapter section out every Friday, or more often if my schedule allows. This has been Lynn Makes, narrating Arcanum by Coral Aran. Thanks again!